I think we're ready to roll, guys. Are we good? We good? We good? G'day, Amanda. Hey, Kobe. Hey, Peter. I hope you guys are good. All right, let's do this. On the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. Something a little bit different this morning. What we're going to be doing, guys, is talking about how to get a really good workout at home, right? And I'll tell you where this come from. This come from me thinking, oh man, I can't wait till I get to Australia and I can film some videos with Carly and Troy and Erin, or when I get to Bali with Dom, when I'm next to them and I've got a perfect environment, I've got all my gyms set up and I've got all the different weights that I want. You know what? I just realized in a moment at the gym, I was like, wait a second, that's me hoping for perfection. The guys in our academy, they don't always have a perfect gym. Maybe they're traveling for work. Maybe they've only got bands at home. Maybe they're seriously so fried from parenting Monday to Friday that they don't have the opportunity because their gym is 4 minutes away. I've actually had a few conversations with a few of the guys in our group over the last couple of weeks where they're like, the closest gym is 40 minutes away, Jace. So I'm going to try to make that a habit. It's like, holy shit. If the gym was 40 minutes away from me, I probably would struggle to keep that. So for this reason, I thought, you know what I'll instead do is just demonstrate some of this stuff at home, which is going to be much more appropriate for so many of you. Now, if you do train in a gym, it's equally important because obviously the gym contains dumbbells. So why are we actually doing this? I've just ticked off. I want to give you guys the confidence to let you know that if you train at home, you can most definitely get results. A lot of the content that I've been throwing out on social media has been around getting results at home with home-based programs. So when would you actually train at home? When the gym's too far? Maybe when you're on holidays, you're not actually training at home, but you know when you go to a hotel gym and they've literally got maybe a half rack of dumbbells and no machines and a few treadmills. I don't know about you, but I still want to train when I'm on holidays. Why? I want to feel like I'm not losing my gains. I still want to be active. I still want to keep my basic habits. And so for that reason, I want to make sure that I still train. So I thought to myself, well, what are the typical mistakes that people make when they train at home or they try to train at home? The first thing they do is they say, I don't have enough equipment. Who says that? Okay, I'm going to tell you that you can get an amazing workout at home with either some resistance bands or some adjustable dumbbells, okay? I'm going to tell you those two things. You do not need fancy apparati that all the rest of the gyms have. If you've only got some basic equipment at home, even if you don't have a bench and a rack, for example, they would be good investments in the middle to long term if you're only ever going to be able to train at home. Let's say you live on a farm or something like that. I would invest in a squat rack and an adjustable bench. They'd be the first two purchases that I'd make after getting some dumbbells. But apart from that, you don't need anything else but a set of dumbbells or some resistance bands at the start, okay? One of the mistakes that people make is they say, well, my environment's no good. I've got no room. Okay, guys, the reason I'm doing this literally in my office is to prove. So from here to here is about, I'm going to say 3 meters, okay? And from here to the edge of the screen where I'm going to be working out in, that's about 1 meter. So I'm talking 3 by 1 to 1.5 meters. I don't have a lot of space. What you want to have is you want to have a space ready for you that's always there. Because if you have to move shit all the time, that's when it becomes like, oh, I'm not going to do this, right? It's a hassle. But if you've just got your 3 by 2 or 2 by 1 space and it's there, you can do a really, really good workout. Now, part of the reason is in proper strength training, here is what we are trying to do, guys. We are trying to contract and squeeze the muscle. This is what builds muscle. This is what builds a bigger metabolism so you can burn more calories even at rest. We are not trying to do these like crazy burpees where you sort of feel like you need room, or star jumps, or things where you kind of might trip. That's not what we're doing. we are in most cases either on the floor or feet planted on the floor, where balance isn't really an issue. You shouldn't be jumping around and knocking things over. So space is not a problem. The final thing that I think people make a mistake of is that they don't actually know what they're trying to do. And the dumbbells that they have invested in kind of look like this. Who's got a pair of these guys around their house, right? Now, these are perfect if you're just getting started, no doubt. Or if you're just not very trained yet. But for me, these are useless, okay? For me, these are useless. So if you are going to train at home as your purpose, as your permanent thing, you need to make sure that you have dumbbells that are adjustable and that go to a big enough level. Now, when I say adjustable, why do you need adjustable dumbbells? This is a non-adjustable dumbbell. In other words, it weighs 3 pounds. I think that's pounds, yeah. And you can't make it any more than 3 pounds, right? If you have adjustable dumbbells, you can. Now, why is that important? Well, because if I'm doing a squat-based movement that's going to utilize my legs and my entire body, do you think I'm going to be able to lift more with my entire lower body than I am with my shoulders doing a side raise or a bicep curl? Yes, I am. So I need adjustable dumbbells. Now, how much is a set of adjustable dumbbells? I bought these ones in COVID, and I'm going to show you these in a moment. They come in a pack like this, right? And they go up, there's 20 kilos of weight here. These cost me, I think it was about $200, right? But they're not plastic. They last forever. You can take them if you move house, right? You can take them on holidays if you're going on a road trip. So that's what they look like. And I'll show you how to use them in a second. So what we're going to do now, guys, is we're going to go through 8 exercises that could give you a full body workout at home using only dumbbells. What I'm going to do is show you the body part that this is actually meant to be working. Then what I'm going to do is demonstrate how to perform the movement correctly. Because at the end of the day, this is the reason I wanted you to do this, and this is the reason why I'm asking you guys to take videos, form videos, put them on the group. Don't be embarrassed. If you put them on the group, we can assess them. I'm going to guarantee half of you guys your form is terrible, and that's not because you're an idiot. That's because you've never been taught. So I want you to ask yourself a question. If we could give you feedback which got you quicker results, is that a good thing for you? Are you willing to get a little bit embarrassed about putting up a video to at least make sure that you're doing the right thing? Because if you're doing your bicep curls like this, it's not fucking doing anything, and you're pretty much wasting your time. So let's get into the first exercise. So what I've done here is I'm not going to adjust my dumbbells for each exercise because that would take too long to do it in between sets. I'm going to use the same set. I'm going to use the same dumbbells, but just be mindful that if I was doing shoulders, I'm going to do less than this. If I was to do legs, I'm probably going to do more than this. Okay, but I'm just going to use the one dumbbell to demonstrate. Okay, so the first move that I'm going to give you is what's called the goblet squat. Okay, the goblet squat. So if we were to go and have a look at what we're trying to work here, when we talk about our quads, we have muscles that go like this, fibers that go like this. So what we're trying to work is the quads. Okay, I'm not going to show you my ass. We're trying to work here, which is the glutes themselves. And then if we're sitting nicely on our heels, we'll also work the hamstrings. So we're getting a really nice all over workout. I want to show you how to do it. So you take your dumbbell just like this, and you put your arms underneath. If you're holding it like this, okay, what will tend to happen is you will lean forward, right? So the idea of holding it underhand tends to keep you a little bit more upright. Now, if you can't do that, instead, just hold the dumbbells by your side. That's completely fine. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to stay in the most upright posture we can. I'm going to go and put the hands under the dumbbells like this. and kind of just rest it on the top of my chest here. And then what I'm going to do is try to get down my butt to the ground. But here's what a lot of people do. They do it like this. And that's because their ankle mobility and their knee mobility is not very good, which is totally fine. So instead, what I'd like you to do is try to keep as upright as you can, and instead just sit your butt down. Think of moving your butt backwards and down as the first movement, okay? Move your butt back and down as the first movement. Sit into the movement. And the best way that I think you can think about this is, if you find yourself leaning forward on your toes, that's when you start to tip forward, and it's not very good. So you want to sit into your heels a bit. If you need to take a slightly wider stance, that's also completely fine. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to what feels comfortable for you, and we're just going to sit into that position and then come up. We are not like the Energizer Bunny when we do our reps, particularly if we don't have a lot of weight. What we want to do is take around 2 seconds to get down. 1, 2, take a half-second pause, and then explode up. 1, 2, explode up. 1, 2, and explode up. Now, as your mobility begins to increase, you're going to be able to sit your butt into that position even more. Coach Troy has done a fair few trainings, and he's working on more on how to improve your ankle mobility so you can get your ass deeper into a squat. But a perfect goblet squat would look like this. And there we go. So we would repeat that movement for 6 to 12, 6 to 10 repetitions in that zone for 3 sets. That's going to work the whole of our legs. The next movement that we're going to do is the floor press. Now, this is a replication of a bench press. Now, this is a really good move, particularly for beginners. We're going to lie on the floor because, remember, the prerequisite for this whole episode is that we don't have any equipment other than the dumbbells. Now, I find the floor press not amazing for myself because my chest is probably my strongest bit, my strongest body part, and we get the majority of the benefit out of when our chest is in the most amount of stretch. So the problem, or the only problem with the floor press, is that, you know what, once the elbow hits the ground, and I'll demonstrate that, we can't get any further because we can't push the elbow through the ground, right? So the one limitation of the floor press, which you can demonstrate, is that the elbows cannot get past the ground, so the chest can't get into its most stretched position. This is the reason why, if you decide to train at home permanently, the first investment that I would make would be an adjustable bench. Why? Because that's going to allow you way more versatility in your chest movements, and then even some rowing movements, some curl movements, so a lot more versatility. So if you're going to train at home permanently, an adjustable bench is what you want. But for now, we're going to talk about how to do the floor press, and it's very much the same as the bench press. Now, what are we actually trying to do with this movement? We are specifically trying to develop the chest. All of the chest muscles tie into the shoulder like this. So what we're trying to do is when we're pulling back, those muscles are stretched like an elastic band, and then we squeeze them together. So if all you're doing is kind of like floppily pushing like this and rounding with your shoulders, you're missing the point. This is mind-muscle connection. I want you to think about squeezing your chest from the bottom when you do it. This is the difference between powerlifting and trying to build muscle. In powerlifting, you just want to move it from A to B as quickly as possible. But in trying to build some muscle, build our metabolism up, which sets us up for better fat loss, we want to squeeze the movement as much as possible. So that's what we'll do. So Hopefully I'm still in screen here. I think so. Get back a little bit. All right. All we're going to do is on about a 45-degree angle. In other words, we do not want to be way out here. This flaring of the shoulders, if it was at right of the body, ends up causing your shoulders a bit of pain. So instead, what we want to do is keep the shoulders at about 45 degrees and then squeeze. Slow down the movement as much as possible because we cannot, remember I said we can't get beyond the floor. So what we want to do is slow down the movement as much as possible. Slow down the movement and then squeeze. And that, my friends, is the floor press. So what I would personally do as a variant to the floor press is, because of the fact that I'm limited with the amount of muscle, the amount of weight that I can actually lift, what I would personally do is do very, very slow push-ups with some textbooks, right? It sounds a bit silly, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pack up, and I would use probably one more textbook on this. And what I'm trying to do is give myself greater height so I can get a deeper stretch in my chest. Now, I'm not going to be able to necessarily weight this as well. I could use a resistance band, but what I am going to do is take it up to about here, and then I'm going to do my push-up in between. So if you don't have a set of dumbbells, you can do these on your knees, right? You could get a really, really good chest workout doing knee push-ups with some elevation on some books. If you're feeling confident, do not do crazy shit that you see on Instagram that's just ridiculous. But instead, this is what this would look like, okay? Instead of having to stop here because the floor's here, I can go a little bit further and get that really nice deep stretch. Hopefully that's still on camera enough. So I go like this and I really slow it down and I think about contracting the movement as much as possible on the way up. And look at that. That turns into, just after 3 repetitions here, I can feel a really, really nice little squeeze in the chest. All right, what's next? We've got the reverse lunge. This is a really, really good exercise. Really easy to do, okay? And I'm going to show you how to do it. Again, we're working the entirety of the upper part of our leg, okay? Now, we want to probably, for most of us, take a good stand-up posture, right? Rather than leaning. Now, look, the more you lean your torso, this is not bad, but the more you lean your torso forward when you do this lunge, the more it will tend to become what's called dominant in the back, posterior dominant, which basically just means it's going to work more of your glute and your hamstring. But if you just want a good overall, stay nice and upright. Now, it's pretty simple. You take a shoulder width stance, and all we do is the following. We come back and do a nice little lunge. Come back and do a nice little lunge. What's really interesting about this is that for people like me who tend to be squatting in symmetrical planes all the time, I'm really weak when it comes to lunges and things like Bulgarian split squats, which means for me, doing these at home gives me a massive burn. But I'll show you the movement again. Just hold them by the side, go back. And again, this is not this shit. We're not doing a cardio-metabolic fucking circuit. That's not what we're doing. We're slowly and in a nice stable way going back. Okay? Simple. Make sense? That is the reverse lunge. We're on number 4, and this is the best way to do a pulling movement. So I want to tell you why pulling movements are really, really important. A pulling movement is the opposite of a pushing movement. So a bench press is a pushing movement, right? A shoulder press is a pushing movement. The reason that pulling movements are so important is because the vast majority of us sit at a desk all day or sit in a car, or even if you're a tradie, you are likely in a position where your head's going forward and your shoulders are rolling forward. Does this make sense? You're on your phone, then you finish your phone, you go to work, then you're at your keyboard, then you finish work, then you're driving home. Everything is in this head forward, rotated position. And so what that means is that, you know, when you see these older ladies and gentlemen walking around the town and they're kind of bent right over and on a mobility scooter, and that's the reason why. So what we need to do is correct this with the reverse movements. The way we do that is pulling movements. So there's probably two variations that I would suggest that you can do here. The first one is a bent over row with dumbbells. Again, very easy, but because you've got to hold yourself in a static position in here, right? It can actually be quite fatiguing, particularly if you're overweight, because you've got a belly in front of you that you have to hold up. Okay, so let me just show you how you would do this. So you would take a shoulder width stance. You would slowly poke your butt back. Now, in any movement that we do that involves the hips, we poke our butt back. We never want to do this with the back, guys, and arch the back. See how we arch the back? That's not good. What we want to do is keep what's called a neutral back, which basically just means like this. We don't this either, right? This is not what we're doing. We're not a duck, okay? So what we want to do is take a nice shoulder width stance. We're going to push the hips back a little bit, drive them back, straight back, which is going to let the dumbbells come down. And all we're going to do is, as a nice and close to the body, we're going to squeeze those dumbbells up by the side. Squeeze those dumbbells up by the side. Now, if you're trying to wonder what we're actually doing here, it's this muscle here and basically this muscle here, okay? The lats, spinal erectors, we're trying to get ourselves into this position where our shoulders are back, which corrects our posture. Does this make sense? So let's do it. Here is how I would do the rep. Notice it's slow on the way out and a nice little squeeze at the top. Now, if I had a little bit of extra weight on, I could feel that already. And that's the movement. We are not going like this. We're staying in that fixed position and here. Now, there's another variation of this that if you prefer, you can do, maybe if you're carrying a little bit of weight, and that's to stabilize yourself on a chair and do them one-handed. Maybe put one foot slightly forward, one foot back and out, but it is a very similar movement, except you're doing them like this. Now, we're not trying to pull with the arm, with the bicep. What we're trying to do is pull with this muscle here. So it's being driven by the elbow. It's more of a squeeze than a pull. Does that make sense? I'm squeezing that muscle. And you should feel that muscle turning on. You shouldn't just feel it in the bicep. So we call this a rack row if it's in the gym. I call it a table row if it's at home. And if it's just with the dumbbells in this neutral position, it's called a bent over row with dumbbells. Okay. Hopefully you guys are staying tuned. I'm not looking at the comments at the moment. All right. The next one that we're going to do is called an RDL. It's actually a very similar position to what we just did with the bent over row as an end position. So the RDL is an excellent full body movement, but it particularly targets the glutes and the back of the legs. It's a really good movement, but a lot of people do it wrong. So let's go through how to actually perform this movement correctly. If you're doing it right, you'll feel a nice little burn in the back of your hamstrings. And for me, I get a bit sore the next day as well. So here's what we're going to do. It's the exact same start position as the bent over row, except rather than bending like this and rowing, we're actually going to use our hips to power the movement. Now, if this is your first time, you're kind of new to working out, you're going to need to watch this a few times to get hang of it. But here's what we want to do. We want to start in this position, just with the dumbbells hanging in front of our legs. And the way we want to think about it is that the dumbbells are going to move down the legs as our hips drive backwards. We are not squatting in this movement. The movement is not this. The movement is this. Now see, if you look at, remember we're trying to target the hamstrings. I don't need to have weights in my hands to show you this. As I push the hips back, the hamstrings get stretched and get longer. So there's a negative strain on the hamstrings as they go out. And then when I contract the hamstrings to bring the hips forward again, there's the contraction. Again, movement goes back with the hips and you go back till you can get a really nice stretch in the hammies. The dumbbells go down and then we push the hips forward. So what you want to do for this movement is you want to practice it without any weights in your hands first, okay? Body weight only. Practice with your hands on the hips and just do this. Just do this. Push the hips back. And I can feel the kind of pull there and then push the hips forward. If you can feel that in the hamstrings and you've got some contraction, a few of you might be doing that right now. Push the hips back and then push them forward again. Then we can add some weight, because all the weight's actually doing is making the body weight movement a little bit harder. So if you can't do the body weight movement, then there's no point in adding any weight to that. Is that a penny drop for a few of us? So let's show how to do the RDL with dumbbells. I'm just going to take them in an overhand grip. I'm going to do it nice and slow, and I'm going to slowly let them come down my legs. I'm not going to go like this and arch my back. I'm going to stay in this neutral position, and once I'm here, I'm just going to hang for half a second, and then I'm going to come back up. Not too slowly on the way back up. You do not need to over-exaggerate this thing. When you see people going like this, you don't need to do that, right? Just bring your hips back to a good neutral position. So I'll do 3 reps for us. Slowly let the hamstrings come out and then push forward with the hips. Slowly let the hamstrings come out and then push forward with the hips. Now what's going to happen is over time, you're going to be able to go down a little bit lower as your hamstrings become a little bit more elastic and mobile. Okay, we're going to get over to doing a shoulder press now. So we are at 6 of 8 exercises. Hopefully this is value for you guys. So in a shoulder press, again, you could do this seated or you could do this standing, and it doesn't really matter. I've got a really bad shoulder and my shoulder tends to fall out a little bit. So I've got to be really careful when I do these and really think. So the way that I'm going to do this, I'm going to hold them by my side. I'm going to keep my feet at about body width here. If I'm seated, that's cool. But if I'm standing, they're about shoulder width. Okay. I'm going to come into this position. Okay. I'm going to turn them out slightly. It's better that they're not all the way out here. That's where you expose your shoulders and where you get a lot of shoulder pain. So instead, be okay with having your shoulders at this kind of 40-degree angle, 30 to 40-degree angle. See this? So we come from this hammer position, right, from the sides, and we go like this, and then we wind the shoulders out a bit to here, not to here. That's where you create pain, to here. And then from here, we simply push from the shoulders. Try not to push from your triceps. Try to push from your actual shoulders. So it looks like this. Now, what is this movement going to hit? Well, you will actually get a lot of the front of the shoulder with your pressing movements like your bench press or your floor press. What we're mainly trying to hit, our shoulder has, they call them 3 heads of the delts. It has the side delt, which looks like this. It has the front delt, which kind of caps out the shoulder like that. And it's got a little guy at the back called the rear delt. So what we're mainly going to hit with this movement is primarily the front delt here and a little bit of side delt. Okay, so I'm going to give you that movement once more. It's not too hard as long as you're controlling the weight. Hammer position. we're good. You do not need to clang the dumbbells together like a monkey at the top, by the way. Okay, that is the shoulder press. We've got 2 exercises to go, 2 of my favorite exercises, one of them being the biceps curl. Now, there are generally a couple of ways that you can do a bicep curl, and they depend on the position that you have your hand in. Checking the time to make sure that I don't go into Carly's coaching call. Okay, so the position you have your hand in. So you can have your position in the traditional palm up. You can have your palm facing in, or you have your palm turned over. For most beginners, I see no real need for them to have their palm turned over bicep curl. We would do that in a tricep-based movement, but we get plenty of triceps with our pressing movements and our bench and our shoulder stuff. So we're going to focus on doing either an underhand grip or what's called a hammer grip. Now, here's a little hack that I got for you. So many people do their bicep curls like this because everyone can do a bicep curl, so they try to do it heavy. They go like this. That's okay at the end of the movement, not the start. What we need to do is keep the form strict so we're actually working our biceps. So what are our biceps? Everyone might say, I know this, but the biceps start at about here, cross over the elbow joint and go like this. So because we're contracting the muscles in that manner, we are stretching and contracting the bicep muscle. Yeah? Okay, so let's give it a go. Here's how I'm going to do it. Pin my elbows to my side. I don't want to be letting my elbows come up, because the moment my elbows come off my side, I'm now swinging them instead of curling and contracting them. Does this make sense? So here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to keep my elbows by my side here, and I'm simply going to curl from the elbow. If you think of the elbow just like a hinge, like a door hinge, that's exactly how you curl them. The door doesn't move in any other way except from the hinge, and in a bicep curl, it doesn't move any other way except from the elbow. Now, what you want to do, I don't have a lot of space here. I would prefer if you have the dumbbells at your side and open up the elbows as much as possible. Now, why do you want to open up the elbows as much as possible? Remember when I said doing a chest press, the limitation of the floor press is that you can't get your elbows back far enough, so you don't get the maximum stretch in this pec fibers here. That's where the goodness is. Well, in the same way, a lot of people will just do this with bicep curls. They think that they get a little pump, right? And then the pump goes away. What we want to instead do is have it so that the elbows are opening up, even forcing them to open up to the maximum amount. And the curl looks like this. Slow it down on the way out. See how here they're at maximum opening? I'm not doing this, because if I do this, yes, I get the contraction part, but I miss the best part of the movement, which is the deep stretch at the biceps most fully extended point. Does this make sense? So we can do them either as a underhand version, or we can do them as a hammer version. Again, slightly different muscles, but all in that bicep region, and a bloody beautiful movement. So the hack is this. If you go up against a wall and you put your back of your head, your back, and your butt against the wall, it's impossible to cheat. As you do your strict reps with your elbows touching the wall, you can't cheat. And then once you can't do any more, then it's okay to cheat a bit. I'm on, say, rep 8 or 10, and then I go and come off the wall, and then I can do some pumps, and that's completely fine, but only after you've earned it with proper form. Okay, final exercise that we're going to do is a lateral raise. Now, why would I include a lateral raise, which is this side delt here? It's a very small muscle, but the reason I love doing these is because if you can develop bigger shoulder caps, it gives you even a tiny bit relative to your waist, this impression of a little bit of wideness. No one wants to look like a triangle, right? Because that is not visually appealing once you get to the point of where you're starting to kind of look at your aesthetic and think about things you can change, right? That's a bit more of an advanced thing. Now, we're going to get lots of activation from our front delts in all of the pushing movements that we do. Shoulder press, floor press. We're going to get a lot of rear delt through all of the pulling movements that we do. For example, our bent over rows, a little bit of the RDL, okay? One thing that we don't hit massively, we do a little bit in shoulder press, but is the side delt. And so for me, I love training these. I think they're great. So how do we do them? Again, very similar starting position to the bicep curl. We can start them here, except we're palms over instead of palms under. Pretty much the exact same starting point, okay? The massive mistake that people make is they go and flick them up like this. It's usually because it's too heavy. What you're trying to is keep a nice natural arc. I need to just move us slightly off here. Nice natural arc, and all we do just slightly in front of the body, so not directly to the side, but just slightly in front. I'll do that from the side. So maybe just not quite exactly straight out, but maybe a 15 to 20%. So it takes a little bit of pressure off the shoulders. And here's what the movement looks like. We are thinking about squeezing our side delt when we do this. How does that look from the side? See how it's all very controlled? This is the key to building muscle. Now, the reason I wanted to do this whole thing, guys, is because I'm hoping, and I haven't read the comments yet, that there's been some light bulb moments where you're training at home and you're kind of like, yeah, I don't fucking really know what to do. And a few of you have asked for deeper breakdowns into exercise technique because on our app, you just kind of see me doing the movement as opposed to a deep explanation of why. This is why I wanted to do this. So what I'm going to do is quickly recap the 8 exercises that I've suggested here to give you a full body workout. Then we'll end the podcast and answer any questions. Okay, so goblet squat, hands under. Here we go. Goblet squat. Next up was the floor press. I'm going to get down on the ground. Again. It's like a bench press. We can also do the elevated push-ups. Next up is the reverse lunge. Stay in control. Shoulder width. You can sub these out also for a Bulgarian split squat if you need a little bit more difficulty. The bent over row. We've got the RDL, same position. Hips go back. We've got the shoulder press from hammer position, slightly in front of the body. We've got the biceps wall curl into a little bit of cheating. Biceps into a little bit of cheating. And then to finish, we've got my favorite, which is the side raise or the lateral fly. Nice and controlled. Okay, that's a wrap for the podcast. I really do hope that this was beneficial. If you like this type of content, then let me know. And particularly when I'm with the other coaches in person, it's a lot easier to do this when you're actually can film each other. I've got a static camera here and drawing on myself. It's a little bit harder. But if, for example, we had Troy pointing out or demonstrating or correcting, that could be really helpful. So if you like this sort of stuff, let us know. This has been the Better Body Academy podcast coming to you for another episode, and we'll see you in the next. Peace. All right, guys. So I can get a drink now. Okay, so what questions do we have? So hopefully we're still streaming on the men's group because it looks like it's bugged a bit. Joe says, super helpful. Good stuff, Joe. I appreciate that, mate. Okay, so as expected, most of the questions from the girls. All right, what do we got? So firstly, hey, Mel, Delara, Fiona, Karina, Lynn. Okay, so Lynn, question. Should you keep your weights light? No. This is what I spoke about at the start of the episode. I don't know, you probably come in live and come in a little bit later. So what we want to do, most people have like these hanging around the house. And you you can use these at the start when you are this strong, but you do not want to be working out with light weights just because that's what you've got. The reason that I brought in adjustable dumbbells is because like if you're a 80 kilogram, 100 kilogram lady that's squatting 3 pounds, that's such a small fraction of your body weight that you could probably do 100 repetitions of that. Like I could do 500 repetitions of that and it wouldn't do anything. But if I'm only doing it because that's what I've got, it's kind of wasting your time. And this is why home training gets a bad rap. Home training can be amazing, but you've got to buy a set of adjustable dumbbells. Like I said, these would cost around $200. Facebook Marketplace will have tons of them because people bought them during COVID and then now sell them. And now you've got a full workout system that you can do at home. So the short answer is go back and listen, Lynn, to the start of the deeper explanation of why. Yeah, what an awesome session, Vicky. I did this because it was kind of your idea. You pushed a little bit more of it. You need a shower with all those tats. Good morning, Kerry. How are you? Peter says very beneficial. Vicky says with a reverse lunge, if you're wobbly, do you shorten the lunge? You could. I would just slow it down a little bit. The reason you're wobbly is probably because, like me, you don't do enough training in unilateral planes, right? Because you're not trained enough that's entered the fray yet, right? I am just like, yeah, I really need to do more of it myself. I focus so much on like pressing and squats and RDLs and everything that's done in a symmetrical plane. But the problem with that is that anything that involves rotation or balance, I'm not great at, honestly, and I really should do a little bit more of it. And so, no, I would think, Vic, you just need to slow it down a little bit, okay? Jen says, awesome. Vicky says, brilliant. I'm often stronger on pulling movements than pushing movements, Amanda says. That's awesome. And there could be some reasons for that. Vic, Amanda, it could be that you're literally just your job. I don't know what you do, but that could be part of it. Could be that you've been working on that and training that a little bit more. But there's really what you want to be thinking about is, am I doing equal amounts of pulling that I am pushing? Now, if you're following one of our programs, you should be. But the basics of it is that if you're just exacerbating this position, you might get like really nice shoulders and like you get strong, no doubt, but at the expense of your posture. Now, an example of this, I'll just give you, my dad's a concreter, right? My dad, he worked his fucking ass off, but he was always using a screed, right? To smooth the concrete. And he's always in this position. Now, yes, he was pulling, but with the screed, you're on your knees, right? And you're kind of, yes, you are pulling, but only pulling to here, right? So he was never getting really out of this shoulder forward position. So I said to my dad when I was home last time, all I want you to focus on at the start of your sessions is doing a pulling movement. And there's two that really I think are great. You need to do a horizontal pull and a vertical pull. Okay. So a horizontal pull is like a cable row or a chest supported row. Chest supported row is fantastic. Okay. That's where you have your chest into the pad. You can be on an angle, you can be straight, it doesn't matter. And your chest goes against the pad and you let your shoulders come forward as far as you can. And then you drive your elbows back as hard as you can, as far as you can, and give them a nice squeeze at the back there, okay? The other one is a vertical row. This is where you're coming up like a pull down or a chin up, and you're bringing your elbows down, okay? All right, hopefully that's helpful. Steph says, Jace, great session. Could you also show a proper structure, a proper posture for shrugs, please? Yep, I can. Now, for most women, they wouldn't really care about shrugs what are shrugs mostly doing, Steph? Traps. Okay, traps mostly. Hit a bit of shoulders as well, but mostly your traps. So most women don't really want like pronounced traps. So I just want to make sure that that's what you know they're working. Now the traps, you see them from the front as here, but actually from the back, they have like this diamond pattern. They kind of come down from here and go out a bit. I can't do it. And then come out down and then into here. So they are quite a big muscle, okay? The way that you do them, I see people in the gym doing this. That's like stupid. It's useless, right? There is not really any exercises that you want to do with a fast tempo until you're more trained, okay? And you're looking for explosive power. What we're trying to do with any pulling movement, we want to try to release the grips a little bit, right? That's why grip, what are they called? Wraps can help, because it allows you to release the grip, which takes the tension out of your biceps a bit. But what you want to do is think about shrugging up with this part of your neck, your traps, right? So the way you do it is you hang, I would just put them here, like resting kind of comfortably at your front. And what you want to do, you'll have a little bit of a push forward, maybe in your shoulders, a little bit. You lean forward just a little bit, as in like this. And then think about pulling up with the traps. Now I can't see what I look like from behind, right? But I'm going to visualize and show you what that should look like, and hopefully you'll see the trap movement. Now what a lot of people will do is they'll do this, which you're kind of pulling, which doesn't do anything. You're doing this, which does your calves, and you're doing nothing from your traps. And a lot of the time that's because what the weight you're lifting is too heavy. So what you want to do is instead lighten the weight and then think about squeezing up, like pinching up with the traps. Does that make sense? Let me know if that works for you, Steph. Guys, if you want to ask anything while I'm here, please let me know and I'll do the movement for you if it's anything that I can demonstrate properly. Good morning, teens. My adjustables still aren't heavy enough. That's the point. That's the point, Tina. You're too strong, right? And I think a lot of ladies particularly think that, how come you do the red ones? Oh, because I've always done the red ones. It's not doing anything. Like, it's okay at the start when you're just not strong yet, but most of you would like it's kind of like, yeah, like, do you know what I mean? And you'll do 15 repetitions of that and you'll be like, oh, it'll burn calories. That's not what we're trying to do, girls. Guys, what we're trying to do is contract the muscles that we're trying to use, be it a bicep, a quad, an ass, a trap. We're trying to contract the muscles, squeeze the muscles so that they get a little bit bigger, which improves your metabolism a little bit, which means that you burn more calories even when you're at rest, which means you burn fat. Get it? All right, let's see if there's any other questions. These are super helpful. John says, like this, Jace, love to see more in the future. Yep. Anything you need, bro, just like send it through to me and whatever, I will do whatever I can to help out. Okay, guys, that looks like we are done and dusted. Okay, well, guys, the coaching call is just about to start for the gals in 7 minutes. If you need the link, it's betterbodyacademy.com/Zoom. Get involved. See you guys.